Welcome to the show, everybody. It's the Crypto Lark. Today I have with me JP, the co-founder of Monetha. JP, welcome.
Thank you so much for having us, Crypto Lark. You know, you had probably the most viewed video of the Monetha's ICO before the ICO, so we feel obligated to come back and tell a few updates.
Awesome. Yeah, that seems like such a long time ago that the ICO happened. Time moves
yeah,
so
this
fast
is, you know,
in
the crypto world. Yes, exactly.
Now, look, for anybody who I guess didn't see that ICO review or hasn't heard about Monetha yet, can you give us the short version?
Sure. So the short version would be that we're creating a trust and reputation platform for independent commerce participants. So for example, if you are a seller or a buyer who's selling on, for example, classified ad marketplaces, there is a free flow commerce. And there's always has been this problem of you not trusting the other side. You always have to kind of make that leap of faith if that's not, you know, an established brand to build that trust. And in commerce, it really matters a lot. So for example, when you're driving a car or you're traveling abroad, you have, you know, driver's license, you have a passport. For some kind of responsibility or liability, there is some sort of representation, you know, a display. We want to create the same thing, the reputation for the buyers and the sellers that would be transferable throughout all platforms. Because right now there are, you know, reputation platforms. For example, eBay is a reputation platform, or Airbnb is a reputation platform, but it's closed loop. You cannot transfer that from one place to another. So what you can essentially do with Monetha, you can pay and then register the rating, how good of a transaction that was. So for the buyers, they feel protected, and for the sellers, they can build their reputation and actually make themselves more established in the commerce world.
Pretty cool. Now, some of the problems, I guess, maybe for people who aren't aware, what are the problems that are actually out there already? I mean, that's kind of what you guys are doing, but why are the existing systems not good enough? I mean, I understand that they're little islands that don't talk to each other, but besides that, what are some of the other problems that we can see here?
Oh, so one of the biggest problem I would say is that the reputation is not tied to a fact that the transaction has really happened. So for example, Facebook is also in the trust and reputation game, right? You can rate for example, a restaurant in New Zealand, but the problem is that me being in Europe, I can rate that restaurant in New Zealand without me ever going there, without me spending $1. So with our system, we want to incorporate this philosophy that every rating has to be attached to a payment. So in order to vote, you have to pay. You have to buy your ticket.
Awesome. That makes a lot of sense when you think about it, but definitely something that the whole industry, as far as reviews and ratings and all this, is a total mess.
Shady.
Especially because, I mean, we didn't hit on that, but think about all the people that just make fake reviews also.
Exactly.
That's also a big
exactly. You can go
restaurants.
to, you know, a click farm and just do a 5-star review on your restaurant. There has even been a case in UK, and you should look it up, where a person to a non-existing restaurant, he managed to get that in #1 place in London on TripAdvisor, just through fake reviews. So, you know, this is where the blockchain technology comes in, but I guess we can talk about that a little bit later.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. So can you expand a little bit on your trust and reputation system, I guess? How does that work? How do you prevent fraud? How do you prevent cheating?
Yeah, so fraud and cheating, of course, every system, when it comes to the ratings, it will be some people will try to manipulate it. So first firewall in this case would be that in order for you to give a 1-star review for your competitor, you have to pay. So you have to give money to your competitor. But we are implementing all these safeties, whereas we would see if there is a fraudulent activity and that's being done regularly. For example, if there's, you know, 8 straight 1-star reviews from a buyer, okay, we have to investigate that, because that is not a natural behavior, not a natural pattern. So we have all this data to understand when it goes out of boundaries. It gives us the the red lights, the red flags, and we go and investigate into that. So at first, when the scale is not that big, for us to build all this data, to build our algorithms like that, to recognize the fraudulent activity, it will be quite easy.
Really interesting. Really interesting. There's so many great uses for blockchain out there, and having this kind of decentralized reputation that you can take from platform to platform is actually a really cool idea. I can understand, though, how it's going to also kind of be hard, because I imagine eBay, for example, the reason that they set up their system the way they did is because they want people to stay on eBay and not go to the different systems.
That's true. And we want to empower not the platforms. We want to empower people who are actually the ones who should own that reputation, because as of this moment, you don't own that. For example, you build your reputation on eBay and you want to transfer your business to Alibaba. You have to start all over again. For example, my father is an antiques collector. So he established his name in one market, and he now wants to expand his business, but he needs to, get his reputation to another market and build that from zero. And here, as mentioned, a universal passport that would be transferable through other systems. So of course, most likely the status quo big reputation platforms will not like us, right? They will try to kind of prevent maybe people using us. But this is where the power of the masses, the power of the people really comes in, because we are giving the reputation to them rather than us owning that.
That's it. So if I'm an eBay seller and I'm going to Alibaba, and as another example, and I'm using Monetha, I can just post a link and say, hey, you can check out my digital ID here. Here's my decentralized source of ratings and reputation. So even though I've only got 5 sales in Alibaba, you can see over here I've got hundreds of sales on these different platforms.
Exactly. And we have, and we're, trying to figure out the solution that would really link those two people, the same person in Alibaba and in Monetha's platform. So you're completely right. Yeah.
Now, it's not just trust and reputation system, though. It's also a payments platform. So with your payments platform, can I use fiat to pay people, or is this just a cryptocurrency thing?
So a little bit of a shift since the ICO was that we shifted our main focus from payments to trust and reputation. And why that happened is, the problem at first, Monetha really was more maybe about payments, and trust and reputation was kind of a bonus to that. But once we, spoke with people from PayPal, from Braintree, and people within our team, and going through the ICO period, we got so much feedback that, guys, there are so many payment processors, there are so many companies of payments. All you should really focus on is trust and reputation, but keep that factor of payments within. So what we want to do is register the payment, not necessarily facilitate it ourselves. That's why we're partnering up with payment service providers. But once we register the payment, we can attach the rating to it. So yes, fiat currencies will be available. That's going to come in a little bit later this year. But you will be able to pay with fiat and build your reputation at the same time.
Okay, great. So the payment provider aspect has become kind of the second thing that you do. It's still an option, but it's just not really the focus anymore.
Yeah, so we want to keep it as a default that, payments is going to be there. And it became like a commodity. It became something of you cannot squeeze a super high vertical out of that. And now we're seeing payment processors going to the race to the bottom. Who gives the lowest fee? But that does not necessarily say that people will use you because you're giving like 0.1% less fee than somebody else, or 0.01. We want to give another vertical, another vector of attack is the trust and reputation. And this is how we feel that we will win over buyers and the sellers rather than giving just a fraction of a cent more.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Now, so if the model's changed a little bit, do you still have the rewards system?
Yes, we're still keeping the kind of we're talking about the loyalty system. The loyalty system still stays there. As mentioned, right now the development has been all about the trust and reputation, but the rewards stays. The token model stays. The voucher system also stays. Everything stays. It's just, it doesn't mean that we're dropping off payments. It's just we're keeping more of a development focus on trust and reputation, because payments, in all honesty, is not that hard of a technical problem to solve. Trust and reputation is a little bit harder, and a challenge that we believe is going to get Monetha to really kind of the blue ocean, where still the reputation problem has not been universally solved. The payments kind of is. So we want, as mentioned, keep the payments in the default and go all in with the trust and reputation.
Yeah, especially a universal trust and reputation system. I know that there's been some individual iterations of that trust and reputation. I know the guys at their ICO was shut down, but Munchie was working on a similar kind of concept with reviews and how to make reviews not be fake. But yeah, obviously a decentralized version of that's going to be great. And like you said, there is so much competition right now in that payment processor space. I mean, Coinbase's button that they just brought out is pretty robust, considering they have such a huge client base already, and so many people already use Coinbase, and they can onboard and offboard fiat over there. So definitely I think that's the right direction to be going in. So can you break down the token for me? What is the token doing these days? What exactly is the function of having Monetha tokens?
So Monetha token is, as mentioned, the loyalty system really kicks into that. But the main kind of value proposition is our voucher system. So for example, what we generate through our transaction fee, a third of that goes into a pool for our contributors. And that pool, proportionately to what you hold for Monetha tokens. For example, you hold 4 million Monetha tokens, and that would be 1% of all token supply, and you would get 1% from that pool as a voucher in Monetha app. So you could spend that 1% through our merchants, and that is our utility token. That's how it's not a dividend base where you can just lie in your bed and get profits. You actually have to work for it.
Fair enough. Fair enough. It's certainly interesting to check out the different token models. Now, what about the main product? Is it still scheduled to come out on the 31st of March?
Yes, 31st of March is our app release, both on iOS and Android devices. And just as a sign of giving back to our community, to our token holders, which we have right now 10,500, we will give early access only to them. So up until the next update, which no promises, but it's most likely going to come on the 30th of April. So for a month, the early access is going to happen only for the token holder. So it doesn't matter if you hold, one Monetha token, you will have an access to our application the 31st of March.
Okay, so the product comes out. Can you walk me through the steps? So I'm a merchant. I want to use Monetha. What do I have to do? How does the process work? How do I sign up for the service? How do I utilize the token and sign up for the service?
It's very easy. All you have to do is download the application, and we will have the very simple, very basic know your customer procedure. And a basic, I don't mean that it's going to be primitive in terms of like what information that we're going to get. We're going to ask some information, especially from the merchants. That's how we believe that we will, get the first initial reputation taken. So for example, the more levels of KYC you go through as a merchant, the bigger your initial reputation becomes. Because at first, nobody will have a reputation. It will start from zero. So how do you trust a merchant who just onboarded? So the more information he provides, like his, maybe he has an entity number, his ID and things like that. So the KYC is going to be very, very cool. The same that, big companies are using, and it's going to be quite easy and very user friendly. So for a merchant, the same thing goes for the buyer. It's going to be a little bit more simpler. The less information we'll ask from the buyer, but we really want, not to onboard at first, hundreds of thousands of users. We want to have this really reputable and respectful community that is buying and selling. That's how we're going to just ask for information, and the buyers and the sellers are going to provide it through the KYC. So all in all, for the merchant, it will take around just over five minutes, somewhere around that. It depends, how much information do you leave, but the onboarding process, we want to make it as easy as possible.
Yeah, 5 minutes is certainly a short amount of time. And now, do I have to pay a fee to you guys to register? Like, do I have to pay, I don't know, $1 in Monetha tokens or something like that in order to register for the KYC process?
No, not at all. We cover the KYC process. It costs for us, but we're utilizing that. But all in all, no fees, no hidden fees, nothing like that. And the fee that we're taking, 1.5 transaction fee as of this moment, will be once we implement it, is going to be from the crypto payments. Okay,
cool. So what's the marketing plan? How do you get the message across to people? How do you connect with would-be merchants out there and say, hey, Monetha is this really cool system, come and use it?
Yeah, so there are multiple, verticals how we can do that. And for us, the first step is going to be Europe, just because, we're from here, we're based here, we know this market. So we're going to onboard the first several thousand users here, and then from the data that we're going to gather, reiterate and update our reputation model. We're working with scientists from a very scientific level. It's not just going to be from 1 to 5 stars ratings. It's going to be a lot more complex than that. Once we do that, the holy grail is Southeast Asia. That's why I just came back 2 weeks ago from Singapore. We're thinking very hard in terms of establishing an office there. Southeast Asia is 650 million people population market. So not a lot of companies understand how big of an e-commerce growth is going to have. Mm-hmm. So we're talking about not only, Singapore is quite established and quite developed, but when we're talking about countries like Indonesia, like Philippines, like Taiwan, these are the countries that are really, both the free flow commerce happens in these classified ad marketplaces, but there is a lack of trust, and we want to install it with Monetha.
Cool. It's certainly a great place to be focusing your efforts. That I know a lot of people are moving into the Southeast Asia space at the moment because there's so much development ready to happen there.
Exactly.
It's, like you said, some places already, Singapore's done, right? It's a well-established market, but there's so many new markets that are coming up that are ready for these kind of things. And, if you look at, America and eBay and all that stuff, people already kind of have established reputations and they might be a little more hesitant to change over, but people who are getting into e-commerce now, well, they might be ready for it without a doubt. It's certainly a challenge. You've got probably 20 different languages within that zone and all the rest of it, but certainly a great opportunity as well.
Same as in Europe.
That's
true.
As in Europe. That's true. That's true. Okay, what about your partners? Have you got any partnerships yet that you want to announce?
So to be honest, when it comes to our technical partners, the kind of the third-party services, the payment service providers, we don't want to give out any names as of yet, but these are the partnerships that we are focusing on right now. These are not, not the partnerships that would necessarily be in terms of the sales, but in terms of our technical development, the KYC providers, the payment service providers, these are the partnerships that we're working hard and getting. So this might not be very attractive to the token holders because that's not, that does not give the distribution, that does not give you, many users. But for us, it's probably even more important than that, but because that's how the technology is going to be built.
That's it, and that's how it actually moves forward, getting these getting these technical partners on.
Right now, it's all about product. I know that a lot of people are spoiled from the ICOs, from the speed of the ICOs, but not everybody understands the old school kind of business fundamentals where you have to build the product first, to get the user retention first before you scale. You have to onboard, it's better to onboard 1,000 users that really love your application. And once you do that, once you really know that you nailed it in terms of product, then you can scale, rather than, you know, half-assing your product and then trying to scale it. And then it's just a lot of friction in that. It's not going to be an easy work. So I know that some people are saying, you know, Monetha should be doing more marketing, should be doing more partnerships in terms of sales. But as of this moment, all I'm saying is, you know, patience, because that's how companies are being built in the real world. You know, product first and then scaling.
That's it. There's nothing to market if you don't have a product. Like, hey, we're going to have a product in 6 months. Look at us.
Well, a lot of ICOs are doing that.
I know they are. I know they are. It's a crazy situation. And, you know, you guys have been developing for a while, and I think that's maybe one thing. I've noticed that there's been a lot more social media around Monetha recently, and I think that's one thing a lot of people from ICOs expect. They expect the ICO to come, have $1 million on, you know, ICO on Monday, $1 million on Tuesday. And it doesn't quite work like that. You know, products actually need to be developed. That's why you guys raise the money, to develop products, to put together teams, work on marketing strategies and all this stuff. And so that the ICO happened, was it 6 or 7 months ago now?
Yeah, it was 6 months ago. It was on the 31st of August.
There you go. So on the 31st of August. And so it's been in development since then. So now we're seeing it come forward. Like we said, you know, March 31st will be the date when we can see the initial rollout of the product anyway. Now, I wanted to pivot actually a little bit, and you're based in Lithuania, and I wanted to, there's been so many projects coming out of Lithuania recently and out of Eastern Europe in general, particularly the Baltic states, but Eastern Europe in general. Russia, of course, has made a lot of projects too. But can you break down a little bit for me? What's the crypto scene like in Lithuania?
So for those who don't know, Lithuania is somewhere between the northern countries, like, you know, like Finland and Poland. So we're in this kind of a fortunate situation where we had, you know, a start of capitalism 27 years ago. So that is not necessarily from the business side and marketing side and the sales side. It's not really strong, but the good thing is that we have so many good engineers. And the very educated IT people, blockchain engineers, especially like in Lithuania, just because, you know, the word spreads really fast around the country. That's only 3 million in population. Estonia is only 1.2. So everybody knows each other. And because, you know, there were a few pioneers that, you know, really kickstarted the knowledge on the blockchain technology. And the blockchain technology is relatively really young, so it's not hard for other developers to catch up. It's all about the community. So the community really started, you know, from few people who understood blockchain technology and became kind of influencers and pioneers. And a lot of people were just very, very interested. I think that it becomes kind of a snowball effect. And as mentioned, and this might sound like a joke, but for real, you know, when it's a close proximity community, the word spreads really, really fast. I think that's what happened with Lithuania and Estonia. For example, we were I think exactly the third ICO. The first one was the Mysterium network with their pre-sale, and then it was the Edgeless Casino. We were the third one, and now I think, you know, from the kind of the successful ICOs, we had over 20, maybe even more. So per capita, it is a lot.
Absolutely. I mean, considering New Zealand's got 4 million people and we've had way less than 20 ICOs here, you guys are certainly punching above your weight, which is really cool. And the Baltic states are really becoming this kind of tech capital almost in Eastern Europe. And I think it's really cool that these little countries can kind of look out and see, wow, amazing opportunity. Let's get involved. Let's write the kind of legislation and regulation that we need to let businesses flourish during doing this here in our country, whereas some of the big countries kind of go against cryptocurrencies and against the whole model because it's a threat to them. But little countries, of course, see the opportunity.
And the thing is that ICOs really unlock that, because when you're raising venture capital, you have to be in London, you have to be in Silicon Valley to do that. ICOs unlock the possibility of, no matter where you are in the world, people can invest in your ICO. So the thing is that not usually people are looking at the business side of the team. When it comes to the ICOs, when the contributors evaluate an ICO, they're looking at a lot at the tech team. That's why us having the kind of the disproportionate amount of really good engineers really helps, because ICO contributors really look at what kind of developers do you have, and this is our kind of competitive advantage compared to countries like, as you mentioned, just before we started rolling, is France. How many successful ICOs do they have? Maybe a few, several, but with a population of over, I think, 60 million, it's comparatively is not that much because of the engineers.
Really interesting. And what do you see as some of the top trends for cryptocurrencies in general in 2018? What do you think are going to be some of the hot topics?
So 2017 was a year, and this is a good question, where 2017 was a year where, and I read this comment on Reddit, and pardon my French, I'm just quoting, is in 2017, a dead squirrel could make $1 million in crypto, and because it was all about the speculation. It was and still is, a big bubble. If somebody denies that it's a bubble, you're just closing your eyes, because it has all the metrics of being a bubble. But I think 2018 is going to be the year where the mass adoption that happened, where a lot of people really got interested in ICOs, are going to in cryptocurrencies, are going to see that shift from the kind of the speculative motive, and the shift from only the value exchange aspect of it, like only Bitcoin, right? They're going to see that blockchain technology is what it's all about. This is where the real substance is. Of course, that might come to like the burst of the bubble, but that's how all the innovation starts. This is a stage that the innovation really goes through. And I think 2018, when we go back, 5 years after this, and just going to look back at 2018, we're going to see where, a lot of ICO projects are going to roll out their products, and people are going to take blockchain technology for what it really is.
Really interesting. I think a lot of people maybe misunderstand some of the ideas behind bubbles too. When a bubble happens, it's not that it's the end of a market or something like that. It shakes out the weak projects. It also shakes out the weak investors, and it provides really great buying opportunities for the strong investors. So it's not necessarily a bad thing to have these cycles happening.
Look what happened. I think when the dot-com bubble was at its peak, it conducted a third of the world's GDP. Right now, the cryptocurrencies is just only 1%. So the size of the bubble was way higher when in the dot-com bubble. There were a lot of casualties, but the survivors, like Amazon, like Google, like PayPal, they really made great contributions to the economy and to innovation. So I think the same is going to happen with the blockchain.
Yeah, interesting. I certainly think that people I guess really underestimate the power of blockchain technology, and there are too many speculators out there, and hey, everybody wants to make a few bucks, but when you actually look at the power of blockchain technology to revolutionize so many industries that we've looked at and just kind of acceptable, that's how it normally works. I mean, look at what you guys are doing. You can have an immutable ledger of transparent trust and reputation across any platform, and that's just one small iteration of blockchain. We have data ownership, we have finance, artificial intelligence, all this stuff happening, and that's where the real magic lies. And so not everyone gets that. I think you clicked onto that very well too. So
exactly. And when we're seeing if the ICO kind of bubble wouldn't have happened, we understand, we're not delusional. We understand that in venture capital, because of course the team was really great, we had an MVP, we had founders that worked with each other for 5 years. We probably would have raised like $2, maybe $3 million. but not $37 million in 18 minutes. And, you know, the capital right now is way higher because the Ether price has gone up. So this really enables us to give, you know, really a one big step in the global market. Whereas, you know, when it would have been venture capital, it wouldn't be that easy and wouldn't be that possible. And that's because of the bubble.
It would have taken you, yeah, 10 years to get to the kind of capital backing where you have now. So when you do make that jump into the Southeast Asia market, you're ready. You can hire teams and all these things and actually do it properly and get in there and say, hey, this is what we do. Check us out, and get that message across to people effectively.
Agreed.
Awesome. JP, thanks for taking the time to sit down with us today. This has been really interesting, you know, seeing what's happening with Monetha 6 months later, and of course, some great thoughts about what is going on currently and what the future holds in store for cryptocurrency. So thanks for taking the time to sit down with us.
No problem, Crypto Lark. And you're a little bit mistaken. This is not an interview that I sat down. This was a standing interview on the standing desk.
Awesome. Awesome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. We'll see you next time.
See ya.